Okay, and we are live. Tonight, Brian and I are doing some Attack Vector Tactical. Brian has played it once, years ago. So I'll be teaching him a bit of it tonight. Otherwise, he's obviously played a lot of Squadron Strike, so hopefully this will not be a lot of teaching. And if you have any questions, feel free to speak up in chat. I will hopefully see the question eventually when I glance over. Okay, Brian, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, do you have your ship selected?
I do.
Okay. I'm just going to walk quickly through the SSD so we can refresh your memory and everything. Oh, do you have the weapon card for the lasers?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. Otherwise, it's in the promotional channel on the Discord.
Gotcha.
Okay. So let's see. So first, the SSD. Along the left side of the SSD, we have the pivot and roll caterpillar charts. We don't need to use those because it's already programmed into the app. But it's for informational purposes when you plan things out. That's how long it takes you to do something. Like if you're going to pivot one window, it'll take you one segment to do.
Yep.
If you're going to pivot two windows, or four windows, I should say, right down here, that'll take you a total of 2 segments. So on the first segment, you move one window. On the next segment, you move 2 more windows. On the final segment, you move the last window and be completely done. In Attack Vector, unlike Squadron Strike, it's write orders, do attack orders, move.
Okay.
So when it says +0, that's for the current segment, but that's after you shoot. It sometimes causes my brain to twitch when I try to think of all the implications. It's like, okay, +0 really means this is where I'm going to be next segment, not this segment, when I attack.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Okay. Roll is the same thing except for rolling. These are spheres, so they roll and pivot are their pivot's pretty good compared to a cylinder ship. And the roll is about the same. Down below the caterpillar chart is the fuel track. And it's kind of like shield bubbles in Squadron Strike. You mark from left to right, top to bottom. When they transition from circles to squares, a minor little effect occurs that we really don't have to worry about.
Thrust goes up.
Your thrust maximum goes up.
Yeah.
Which just means you can burn fuel more quickly, but you're already running out of fuel. Like, yes, you can burn fuel more quickly. By the way, you don't have a lot of fuel left. Have fun. Just to the right of that, we have the damage depth numbers. It'll be like nose, aft, lateral, and then depth. It'll be like 30 and it'll be 30, 30, 30.
Okay.
When an area gets hit, say if you get hit on the nose, the first 30 points of damage would be in the nose location. Then it transitions to the core for 30 more points of damage. Then after that, it transitions to the aft for 30 more points of damage. Anything after that goes out the back of the ship.
Makes sense.
Yeah, cylinders, they have a very small depth laterally because it's a very skinny cylinder. But these are spheres, so they're pretty thick all the way around. Next to that, we have all of our damage zones. We have propulsion, which you have to actually aim at, so you can't be hit it randomly. Otherwise, we have nose, aft, port, starboard, top, bottom, core. And so when you hit on location, the attacker rolls a d10 to see where they hit for each damage roll. Damage rolls take a long time in Attack Vector. So once you start taking damage, you'll get through this pretty quickly. The number in gray is the amount of armor for that item. So like quarters have 0 armor, reactors have 2 points of armor, batteries have 1 point of armor.
Yep.
Important to note, batteries that have energy in them explode when hit. Same thing for heat sinks.
Thought I remembered that. Yeah, okay.
Okay, if we keep going, we get to the gray bar section on the right-hand side of the SSD, where we actually mark off the damage. So at the top, we have our thrust chart. So right now, the maximum thrust of our ships is 5. We're both flying Rafiks, by the way.
Yep.
And once we get to that transition point with the fuel, the maximum thrust goes up to 5.5. Just like in Squadron Strike, as we take damage, our performance decreases. Next is the reactors. We both have 2 reactors. Each of them can output 1.5 points of energy per segment. Sorry, I had to get some water.
Sure. And
That
we have
pizza-
2 of them, so three maximum per segment.
Yes. But also the reactors will output heat per turn. So it's 1.5 energy per segment and 1.5 heat per turn. The turn being 8 segments.
Right.
Reactors can be only turned on and off at the turn breaks. Next track down, structural integrity. Get to the end of the track, we go kaboom. If you mark off an octagon, they look circular, but they're really octagons. You have to roll that number or higher on a D10, or you go kabloom. If you get a C, if you mark off a C, you take a core hit automatically. So you just roll on the core table and mark off the damage.
Okay.
Which is bad, since 10% of the time you get another structural integrity hit.
Right.
It is highly possible, if unlikely, to get to that first C and just keep rolling 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, just going right down the track until you blow up.
I've managed to have games like that, so yeah. Not an attack vector yet, but I'm sure it'll happen.
Next up is the bridge. That's the number of flex points you get. It's kind of like an AP point in Squadron Strike. You can spend a flex point to do various different things throughout the game. It's your command and control stuff. As the things come up, I can explain what they are.
Sure.
Life supports are basically a free hit. It's more important for like a strategic level game.
Sure.
Hyperdrive, same thing. Those are pretty much free hits, unless you're trying to escape. Radiators are free hits as well, because if you actually extend out the radiators during the game, it's like, we're so far apart, you might also just call the game and go home for the night.
Yeah.
Because radiators, you extend them at a turn break. They take a full turn to extend, and then the radiator level that you have, like 1.2, that's how many points of heat they dissipate per turn. And then you start retracting them over a turn break and take a full turn to retract. So to do any good, they have to be out for a minimum of 3 turns. 1 to extend, 1 to radiate, 1 to retract. That's a long time in this game.
Right, and you can't do any thrust at all while that's happening, right?
Correct. So yeah, it's like, no, don't. It's like they're pretty much free hits.
Okay.
Batteries, that's the maximum amount of energy you can have. And if a battery gets hit while there's still power in it, it goes kablooey. And it's a lot of extra damage. It's assumed that empty batteries are marked off first.
Right.
Same thing for heat sinks. We can both absorb 15 points of energy, so we can have our reactors on full blast for 5 turns. And again, if the heatsink has heat stored in it, liquid lithium in this case, it goes explodey if it gets hit, and the empty ones are marked off first. Quarters are pretty much free hits. The wrenches represent damage control teams, which we're not using tonight.
Okay.
And finally is the cargo. That represents the number of strategic turns that you have, basically food and various perishables for travel. Because one campaign turn or strategic turn is 2 weeks. So if you're like, hey, I'm 5 turns away from the nearest supply base, well, you better end up with 5 boxes left on this track, otherwise you're going to starve on the way home. There's very, very little forage in the interstellar space.
Yeah, it's not popular.
There's a possibility if you have missiles in your magazine, which is the M box on the cargo track. If you have missiles in there and that gets marked off, it explodes.
Okay.
And whether or not you have missiles in there depends on what you pick for your starting package.
Okay. Do I have to know that? Because I have no idea.
Oh yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Okay. Out among the ship, we have our various mounts. And the partners work the same way they do in an attack vector. Oh, sorry, Squadron Strike. Oh, give me a second. Okay, having pizza right before this was not a good idea.
Sorry.
Yeah, so.
An abundance of water.
Yes. I'm also, get a little phlegm in the throat, have to cough. It's like, oh, great. So anyways, the mounts work like the way they do in Squadron Strike with the arcs. And each weapon mount has, obviously, weapons in it. But unlike Squadron Strike, they're all off on a weapon card off to the side. So that our main weapon is the 3 MRLS. It's a size 3 medium-range laser. The 3 after it is how many energy points it takes to fire. In this case, 3 points. And the +5 is how many segments we have to wait before we can fire it again. So if we have enough energy, we could fire this laser twice a turn. As it turns 8 segments, this can fire once every 5 segments. And we have 6 of them.
Okay.
If you look on the weapon card, and I'm just bringing it up on stream real fast.
Sure.
It is
Most effective at range 10.
Yep. So it's very simple, cross-reference, kind of like phasers in Starfleet battles. You cross-compare the range with a die roll. That's how many points of damage you do.
Right.
Damage can be aggregated into a single pool. It's free if you want to aggregate all the damage from a single mount into a pool, but one flex point to do multiple mounts together.
Okay.
So it's important if you're like shooting down, you just want to do a lot of small hits or like one really deep hit.
We have armor, so I'm assuming usually you're going to pool them, but...
Yes. Well, if you hit a thin section of armor at close range, you want to do a lot of surface hits.
Okay.
Pooling's not always the best option. Because once you get to 30 points of damage marked off, you go to the next level down.
Okay, but I mean, the most I can get is 42, so unless I'm missing something.
Oh, true. I'm just talking in general. Some other ships have like size 6 short-range laser systems, which do a lot more damage.
Sure.
Let's see. ZDLS are zone defense laser systems. Sorry, ZDLS is your zone defense laser system. And they work like interceptors in Squadron Strike, in that they generate intercept points that you assign to the incoming impactors.
Right, I see the little table here. So up to 3 segments worth of fire at stuff.
There we go. Took me forever to get up on stream. So yeah, for the way they work is that you have impact -1, impact -2, impact -3. And the rate of closure of the impactor will determine how many interceptor points you get.
Okay.
And once we actually start launching them, I can go over this again. They cost half a point of energy, and you have to use them. You can take a 1 segment cooldown, so once a segment. The 2 CG4s, those are size 2 coil guns. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, the 2 CG4s. They cost 1 point of power to fire. And they have a muzzle velocity of 16. As you see on the coil gun chart on the weapon card.
Oh, okay. Because it's the 2 CG. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And they fire 4 50-kilogram impactors. That's what the 4 means. And they all have to be allocated the same shell star zone, which we'll cover later. It takes 1 point of energy to fire, 1 turn of cool or 1 segment of cooldown, and you have a total of 8 shots per launcher.
Is that noted somewhere? I don't remember seeing that.
It's just a general rule.
Okay.
Coil gun launchers, unless they have like a drum attached to them, have 8 shots. So yeah, you have to keep notes off to the side for that. Okay, in the rear, in Mount F, you have your tri-missile launchers. Mount F and G, actually. And, yeah, so it's a very, very stupid arc. Shoots out the back. But for 1 flex point, you can fire off bore up to 3 windows.
Okay.
And what type of missiles you have is what you will have to pick momentarily.
Okay.
And gunboat docks are empty. Don't have to worry about those. In the middle is the armor silhouettes. That's how much armor you have in each location. So that's pretty self-explanatory, I hope.
Yep.
Okay. And once we get to damage allocation, I'll explain how that all works. Okay, over on the interface side, first click the name of your ship.
Okay.
You should see a heat power dialog pop up.
On what list am I? On what arc am I? I'm in the arcs.
On the Avid page, arcs page. Yeah, just click the name of your ship.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yep, I need to change scene so I can actually see it on screen. And so that keeps track of all your the current power and reactors and so on. So set your max power to 22. You just hold down the button too. Then set your current power to 22. It won't go above max. That's why I have to set max first.
Okay.
You just hold down the button, it'll auto go up.
Oh, and it will stop because that's what you just said.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, when you turn your reactors on, it'll automatically generate power each segment up to your max and heat at the end of each turn. So you don't have to go do that manually.
Okay. And they generate 1.5 points of power. Is it also 1.5 points of heat?
Yes.
Okay.
They're listed separately because if you take damage to your reactor, it'll produce less energy during the turn, but the same amount of heat until you readjust things at the turn break.
Gotcha.
Right now there's 0 because our reactors are turned off.
Right.
If you click the next button, you'll go to the movement grid. That'll show us how we're moving each segment. And when we're thrusting, it'll show you how much dots of thrust we get each segment.
Okay.
If you click the next button again, it'll bring up the avid, showing your current attitude, your current heat, your current power, and number of reactors you have turned on.
Okay.
Now, if you click My Ship, you see those last 2 dialogues as well.
Okay, so there's thrust, and you don't have any power. Is that because you don't have any power yet, or is
I haven't synced it yet.
I don't know. Okay.
I just didn't sync after setting it. Okay. Okay, down on the Avid. This Avid here is a bit more useful than it is in Squadron Strike because there's a lot more data on it. But because of that, we have 5 declutter buttons. Right above Freestyle Target, you have a row of 5 buttons. If you click on them, they'll turn various things off. And there's not a lot to see until we actually start thrusting and have a vector. So the triangle turns on and off the symbols of the ship.
Right.
The blue is the crossing vector, which will show up as a blue diamond on the Avid when you actually have something greater than 0. Green will be your current vector, which will show up a little bit later. Yeah, we'll come back to this once we have a vector.
Okay.
I forgot nothing shows up here. But for our targeting reticule, we have an extra color over Squadron Strike. We also have green. So the 3 colors in attack vector, red, green, blue. Red, again, is always your current position, just like in Squadron Strike.
All right.
Green is where you're going to be next segment. So 1 segment from now. Blue is where you're going to be 8 segments from now, or 1 complete turn.
Okay, so not at the turn break, but 8 segments from now.
Correct.
Okay.
In the tabletop game, face-to-face without the net, without electronic aids, it is actually the end of turn marker. You fly towards it, you end up on it at the end of turn. It's actually more useful to always keep it 8 segments in the future.
Sure.
And because we can calculate it easily, we do so. The +8 also includes your opponent's thrust and your thrust.
Okay.
So if it starts looking kind of funky, it's like, why am I heading that away? Well, because you're thrusting and it's moving your end of turn marker.
Right. And the green ones, will those include displacement for the next segment, or?
It'll include all known information for the next segment.
Okay.
Usually no, it won't include the displacement until the actual appropriate part of the turn sequence, because things can change.
Okay.
Let's see. Arc's page is the same as in Squadron Strike. The exceptions are at the bottom.
Yeah.
Currently set to beam. You can cycle through to the various weapon systems. So you have beam, which is your lasers, obviously. And then your CGs are your coil guns. You have different muzzle velocities, because the bigger ones can downfire.
Yep.
And then when you have missiles launched, you put in a number of turns of burn for the missile launch. When you're launching missiles, they'll tell the number of segments and the rate of closure up top.
Okay.
And when you actually launch them, the L button will light up, and you can then enter your shell star information.
Okay.
The everything button brings up the filters, and they're similar to the filters in Squadron Strike, except we just have ships and shell stars. Once you get a couple shell stars on the map, they become more useful.
Okay, yeah, I rarely use the filters in Squadron Strike, so
okay.
I'll have to figure that out.
The little target bar will cycle through the arcs and where you're going to hit your target. And we are the spherical ships today.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, this was attack vector was written 20-something years ago, about around 2004, 2003.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so the idea of putting down notation about where you're going to hit somebody wasn't thought of. So there's, unlike Squadron Strike, we just can't say, I'm hitting you on the nose. It's like, well, I'm hitting you to the nose, starboard. So there'll be nose and one off to the starboard side.
Well, but we have different armor there and such, so.
Yes, but noting it down to tell your opponent is a little tricky. Gotcha. We just can't say nose. It's like, yeah, nose to the right or nose one up.
Nose by southwest.
Yeah. Okay. And turn page is exactly like it is in Squadron Strike. Okay, before we begin, we have to now have to pick our packages. In the Discord chat, I posted packages A through D.
Okay.
And I bring them up on stream. Let's see.
So 22 fuel is the amount of fuel we have left?
Yes.
Okay.
That's spaces of fuel. That's columns.
Columns. Okay. So full would be 30?
Yes.
Okay. And this is public information?
No, it's not.
It is not public information. Okay. Let me get a little card so I can write things down.
Okay, so I set up 4 packages here, and each package comes out to about 120 points. And each of them contain a number of missiles plus fuel. The max amount of fuel that we can have is 30. Are you back with your cards?
Yep, sorry. Yeah, okay. So, I write down what I've got. Okay.
Okay, now the missiles, there's 2 types of missiles for this year. It's 2219. There's the Dash 100 and Dash 350. The Dash 100 is a burn 4 missile, and it has 2 100 kilogram impactors. So it burns a long time, so it can go pretty fast.
Okay.
Get a good delta V going, but it only has 2 impactors.
Okay. So it says 100, but doesn't say times 2.
It's just known in the rules that there's 2 100 kilogram impactors in there.
Okay.
Now the other one, the Dash 350, it has it's a burn 3. That's what the T-3 is, or T-3. So it burns 3, and it has 3 bays of 50 kilogram impactors. Each bay of 50 kilogram impactors contains 3 impactors. So you have a total of 9 impactors on that particular missile.
Gotcha.
So in brackets, that's the bay. And the X3 after it, that's the number of bays.
Okay.
So 350 has 3 bays of 50 kilogram impactors. Each 50 kilogram impactor bay will deploy 3 50 kilogram impactors. So it's and the -5 is the reliability number at the end. And they're all -5, so you don't have to worry about that. But there is a chance that a missile will not work. And we won't know what that chance is until the game begins. So you have 2 tri-missile launchers and a magazine that can hold up to 6 missiles. So a tri-missile launcher holds 3 missiles.
Right.
So you can have 6 ready missiles and 3 in reserve. The reserve missiles only come into play if one of the ready missiles doesn't work at the start of the game.
I see. Okay.
So like package A has 2 extra missiles, just in case a couple of them fail. Same thing for package B. Package C and D have no spares, so if a missile fails, the missile fails.
Okay.
So just pick one of those you want to use.
Okay.
Okay, and then just note down where you're putting each missile.
Done? Does order matter, or?
No. Okay, for stream, I picked package A. I put them in this order.
Okay.
I'll put package A at the bottom. Okie doke. Just getting things set up on my end. Okay, got them all divvied up?
Yep.
Okay, the one thing I do know is how much fuel you have. Do you have a full fuel or?
Yeah, 30 fuel.
Okay. 30 spaces? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's let you know I picked package A, so I have 22 fuel spaces, so I marked off the first 8 columns.
Okay.
Okay, now the fun part. Initial fuel and vectors. Okay, so first thing, I'll roll 2d10 minus. And note the number down.
Is this a public thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you got the 5. I got the 1. Okay. I saw yours come up first. I'm like, okay, I'm 5 turns away from base.
And you have 22 fuel. There you go.
Yeah. But no, I'm actually just 1 turn away from base.
Okay, so when I get to 5 fuel, I better be disengaging.
When you get to 10 fuel. It takes
fuel. Okay.
It takes 2 dots of fuel per strategic turn.
Right.
Okay. So first thing we have to do is figure out how much fuel it takes to get to the system, and it's 2 dots per strategic turn. So it took you 2 times 5, 10 dots. It took me 2 dots. So just mark that off right away.
Okay.
Okay. Next is we have to figure out how long it takes us to intercept each other. So it is another 2d10 minus roll, but we multiply it by 2. And this is separate for both of us.
Why can't I ever get these on penetration rolls, man?
Okay, so that took you 12 fuel. Boy, I'm just... I hope I don't get these rolls when I'm doing soak rolls. So that took me 2 fuel. Okay. And you did 6 fuel? Or is it 12?
I did 12.
Okay, so the total amount of time you're away from base is, let's see, 12, that's 3 turns. Okay, so the number of turns away from base, add 3 to that. So I'm a total of 4 turns.
So number of turns I was away from base was the first roll?
Yes.
Okay, so 8. Okay, add 3. What is adding 3 doing?
Well, we also just spent basically 6 weeks maneuvering in system to intercept each other. That's where the 6 fuel came from for you.
Oh, it was only 6 fuel, not 12.
Sorry. It is it's 12 fuel. It's what you rolled doubled.
Okay, gotcha.
So, your grand total is, what? 8? Okay, you spend 5 turns getting to the system.
Okay.
And then 3 turns intercepting. That's a total of 8. Correct?
I thought it was 6 turns intercepting.
No, no. The first number you rolled is number of turns.
Okay.
To get to the system.
Okay.
Which is 5. So that's 10 dots of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Now forget all about that.
Okay.
The next number you rolled, doubled, is how much fuel you spent intercepting me.
Okay.
So you spent 12 fuel gaining an intercept vector on me.
Yep.
Okay. Now to translate that into time, we divide that by 4, dropping the fractions.
Okay.
So you spend 12 fuel or 3 strategic turns intercepting me.
Okay.
So the total number of strategic turns you've been away from base is 8. 5 to get to the system, plus the 3 intercepting.
Okay.
Me, I'm 1 turn away from base, plus the 3 turns you spent intercepting me.
Okay.
Okay, so fortunately for me, since I rolled like a god for this part anyways, I don't have to worry about reliability. You, however, have to.
Okay. Because of the -5.
Yes. Well, actually, more importantly, because you spent 8 turns.
Right.
So the way reliability works is you roll 2d10 minus, and then subtract 8.
2d10 minus. Okay, gotcha.
And you want to get above a -5 for the missile to work.
Above a -5. Okay.
Yes. So you need to roll 4s.
I need to roll 4 or better for each of my missiles, and I just go down the line?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
So at least half your missiles work.
Well, that figures out which engaging side we're on, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you can rebalance them, too.
Yeah. Not much point, really. Well, I guess I can move them all into one mount, but yeah.
Yeah. Which is why, you want to spend points on putting some in the magazine just in case you get unlucky with these rolls.
Oh, sure. But, I think, yeah, there was plenty of unluckiness, but there we go. Okay, so there we are.
Okay. And you marked off the fuel?
Yes. I marked off buckets and buckets of fuel. Yep.
Okay. Okay, next, we both can assign 12 vectors to our ship in secret. So So whatever vector you also give yourself any attitude you want as well. Now it costs you 1 fuel for every 4 vectors you use, every 4 points of a vector. So if your total combined vectors is 12, it's 3 fuel for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what I want to do is now I kind of want to build a. Hey, look, it looks even better if I actually position the scene properly. Okay, what do I want to do for vectors? I'm going to give myself...
Okay, so I've noted that down.
Yep, I'm just figuring mine out. So let's see. I'll spend... I'll mark off the fuel.
Oui.
Okay. Did you actually enter them in?
I have not yet.
Okay.
So that would just be an update on the list?
Yes. And don't forget to set your attitude the way you want it to be. All entered?
All entered. I even remembered how to notate roll correctly.
All right. So, now that we see each other's vectors, we can bid back and forth. Basically, I'll be like, I'm going to bid like 3 fuel to go in direction A. And we keep going back and forth until both of us bid 0. Or basically do a bid that cancels out the other person. Like if I say 3A, you go 3D, it's like, okay, we're done. Did that make sense?
Not quite. So
okay, you see how I'm heading right now? I'm heading 3F or 4F 4A.
Mm-hmm.
And you're heading what?
3D 3D+1. Yeah.
3D +1. Now that we know each other's vectors, if you want a different vector, if you want to modify your vector based on what I'm doing, we can start bidding fuel.
Right.
This represents as we're getting closer, we can start modifying our intercept vector by basically bidding fuel and changing it right now.
Right, and that's why it's more expensive. I didn't understand the offsetting thing. So because if I increase my vector by 3D and you increase it by 3A, we've drastically changed our vectors.
I'm sorry, if you did 3D and I also did 3D, we cancel each other, cancels it out.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I like my closing vector, so I'm not going to bid anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I like mine or not, but I don't know enough to say, so I'm going to stay where I am.
Okie doke. And with that, we begin the game.
Okay, let me grab the light real quick. Eventually, it'll hit daylight savings enough that I won't be starting these in the afternoon.
Yes.
Sunlight. Okay.
So yeah, attack vector games take a little while to get going because of all this initial setup.
Right.
So it's even worse if I don't come with the packages and people are like spend an hour poring over every single point they can spend or save.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah. Okay, you're set to follow?
I am?
Okie doke. Oh, so the turn sequence is we write our orders. That's all orders, including attack orders. And then we execute those fire orders. And then we have a chance to modify our other orders or generate new ones by spending flex points. Then thrust is resolved, and then ships are moved.
Okay. Yep.
After the long orders phase, it's best just to stay on the turn page and go through as quick as possible, because there's a few micro choices in there, like thrust bias, or ghost pivot, or thrust brakes. But not enough to actually do sit around for 5 minutes contemplating one's naval. So it's best we just go through those as quick as possible.
Gotcha.
A very common failure that I've noticed with this setup is that people will start wandering away from the turn page, looking at arcs after ships have moved, and not actually unlock the turns.
Gotcha.
So it's just giving you a warning right now. I'm going to be probably more picky than usual about unlocking the turn once we get past the long order step.
Okie dokie.
And that is it for today's installment. If you like this, please consider hitting the like button. If you want to see more content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out in the YouTube algorithms and getting the content out to the wider public. And the comments are always appreciated down below. We post new content every weekday. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 11:15 a.m. New York time. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.